Shem Boker Tov. Today's Daf Yomi. This is a recording of the Daf Yomi for Shabbos, which is Shabbos, which is the Avodah Zarah Daf Yud Zayin. There's a lot of Agadat on it. We're going to start on Tezayin Amabeis, 6 lines to the bottom. The Daf is dedicated for a Shemir for the Chayalim. It's all up for the Shmiyim and Yeshua for Am Yisrael. It has some of the most famous Agadatas in the whole Shas. Tanar Rabbanan Kishenitfas Rabbi Eliezer Laminus, when Rabbi Eliezer was grabbed by the minus. He was caught by the minus. Seems from the manuscripts that this might have been he was grabbed by the early Christian supporters. They brought him up to the court to judge him. Amar lo oso higamon zaken shekamoscha yasok b'dvarim b'teil malo. So there was the judge said, an elder like you is going to engage in these foolish things. Amar lo neman alai hadayan. So Rabbi Eliezer said, I trust the judge, whatever he says. Because Savar also higamon. So the judge thought, Allah that he was speaking to him. But Rabbi Eliezer had in mind his Father in heaven. So Amar lo hold that manti alecha. He says, since I trust you, dimus pater ata. Therefore, since you trust in me, so he says that he gamon all ve'amanti alecha. So he says to him, since I like the fact that he trusted in me, Demos, he takes an oath, paturata, you're going to be exempt. Kishabala Beisa, when Rabbi Eliezer went back to his house, Nechnesu Talmidav Etzlo and Nachmo, his students came to him to comfort him. Why? He was upset because he assumed that he had done something wrong, that he was caught. Otherwise, why would he have been caught? So Amal Rabbi Kiva, Rabbi Tarsheni Lomar Davar Achami. Let me say one of the things from what you told me. Allow me to say one thing from what you taught me. Amar lo Amor, say it. Amar lo Rabbi Shema Minus Baliyotcha V'Hanaacha Alav Nitfasta. Maybe some of the, again, this is the manuscripts imply that it was Christianity. Maybe something came to you and you benefited from it, and that's why you're caught. Amar lo, he said to him, Akiva is Kartani, you reminded me. One time I was walking in the marketplace of the upper marketplace of Tzipori, and I found a man, the Yaakov Ish Kfar Sachanya Shmo, and his name was Yaakov Ish Kfar Sachanya. So I'm saying this was an early Christian. And Amrli Katu B'Torah Schem, it says in your Torah, Lo Tavias Nen Zonah, you're not allowed to bring as an offering a payment for a harlot. Can you use that payment to use it as a toilet for the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur? He goes to the bathroom. So can you use it as a toilet? How are you going to use it as a toilet? And so he was going to use it as a toilet. So I didn't say anything to him. So this is what was taught to me. And all the manuscripts say, this is what Jesus of Nazareth taught me. Because it says in the pasuk, it says it says in Micah, because it was gathered up from Esnon Zona, and to an Esnon Zona will return. So the prophet imagined that all of the gifts that were given to the Jewish people, he calls all of them the Esnon, and he says that all the money that was gathered from the idolatry that was given to Bnei Israel for idolatry, the enemies will come and they will take it and give it to their Avodah Zarah. So we see from here that you can use it. It came from a disgusting place, from harlotry, and it will go to a disgusting place. He says, because I enjoyed it, I appreciated it. Therefore, as a result of this, I was brought and I was accused of being a heretic. And I violated that which it says. It says in the Torah. It says This is Zuminus Varishus. You distance yourself from your path that refers to heresy and wickedness. Don't go into the entrance to the house, Zuzona. This refers to a harlot. You need to step away from the harlot. The Kama, how far do you have to be? Rav Chisda Arba Amos. You need to be at least 4 Amos from the entrance to the harlot. Rabbanon Jaime Esnon Zona Maidar Shibe. What do the rabbis learn out from the fact that it says that pasuk of Me Esnon Zona? The Rabbanon who didn't make Rav Yaakov Ish Kafar Sachanya's drasha or Jesus of Nazareth's drasha. Now, what did they learn out from that pasuk of Me'esno and Zona? So the Amar Rav Chisda, Rav Chisda called Zona Sheneskeres Sofi Socharis. Any Zona who is hired out for harlotry, in the end, she will hire them out. And meaning to say that if she was initially gathered for that, in the end, she will be hired out. She will also have to hire. So that's a statement in Ezekiel. The Rabbi Pedas, it's always the Rabbi Pedas, Rabbi Pedas, also Torah el kriva shel gilui arais bavad. So this teaching of Rav Chisda, who says that you need to separate 4 amos away from a harlot, argues Rabbi Pedas, who says that the Torah only prohibits actual tashmish. Kriva shel gilui arais bavad. Shenemar ishish al kol pesarolo tikrivu galos erva. Yeah, you're not allowed to have the actual tashmish, but you're allowed to be with him 4 amos. When Ula came, when he would come to from the base midrash, he would kiss his sister on their hands, and some say he would kiss them on their chest. So this is a contradiction. So here we say that Ula says it's only prohibited. So here Ula says, so this idea that he kissed his sisters contradicts something he said in another place. Because in another place he said every touching is prohibited because it says you have to distance yourself away from the Nazir has to distance himself away from the vineyard, and so therefore, so too by arise you need to distance yourself from any coming close. And so therefore, how come Ula was touching his sisters? Because Tosfos says Mishum de Damino of Keshura, because since he felt so close to them, they looked at him like a beam, like a wooden board, and had nothing to do. He wasn't at all excited, and so therefore, if he passed him for himself, it's permitted. And then the Gemara says, "Aluka shtei banos hav hav." It says in Mishlei, Aluka has 2 daughters, and their names are hav hav. My hav hav. What does that mean? Hav hav. So the Gemara says, "Amar Marokva kol shtei banos shetzokos mi gehenim." This is the sound of those 2 daughters cries out that cry out from Gehenim. Almost bolama zeh have. They say in this world, bring me. Umanin, who are these two daughters that cry out from hell in this world, scream out, bring me. This is Minos Varashos. This is heresy and Harashus. It says give money to the king. The sound of hell screams out, bring me 2 daughters. The hell says, bring me the 2 daughters that cry out in this world, bring me, meaning to say the heresy and the rishus. So the Gemara says, and it says in Mishlei, Kol ba'al lo yeshivun vo yasigu orchos chaim. All of those who come to her will not do tshuva and will not find the paths of life. Since they're not going to return back to do tshuva, how would they? Why do we need to know that they're not going to find the path of life? They didn't repent. So the Gemara says it means even if they do tshuva, they won't be able to get the path of life. The Koah Parashri Minos Mayas means that anybody who separates from heresy dies right away. So there's a person came in front of Chisda, and some say so there was once a woman who came for Rav Chisda, and she said to him that she did that the smallest of the small sins that her son did was that she did with is that her older son had intercourse with her and produced her smallest, her youngest son, and that was the smallest thing she did. So Rav Chisda said, prepare her burial shroud. She's going to die. Below Mesa, and she didn't die. We see that she also did heresy, and yet she didn't die right away because she did tshuva. So the Gemara says, this woman, the reason why she didn't, die is because she didn't do proper tshuva. That's why she didn't die. Some say, meaning to say that if somebody separates from heresy, they're going to die, or if somebody separates from other sins, they won't die. And she died. So we see somebody who separates from heresy, from the sin of erva, will die. So the Gemara says, we call the minus nami habiba. She had other sins. She had the sin of heresy. By the way, we're saying heresy, it's possible that doesn't mean heresy, it means Christianity. Where it says that, and yes.
The idea that although she didn't repent, because she didn't repent, she didn't die. She would die. She get more kafara.
No, she didn't. So, no, because she didn't do the. Well, there's two different versions, so they're not saying exactly the same thing. But the point is that there are certain sins that you die right away. That's the point. There are certain sins that even if you do tshuva, you still die right away. So the dying is part of your teshuvah.
So in this case, you wanted to.
Not necessarily. It's possible, but it's not necessarily. Each case, it's a little bit different. We'll look at this next case. And we'll do this again on Shabbos. We'll do it a little bit slower, but we'll go over that more carefully. So the Gemara says, if you separate from a sin, you won't die. But Tanya, what about the following story? That one of the most famous stories in the entire Talmud. Amro about Rabbi Lazar ben Durdai. They said about Rabbi Lazar, the son of Durdai. And in his son, in his name, it hints to both the sin and the tshuva. So Durdai is the dregs of the wine, and a sinner is called vinegar. And so therefore, he wasn't completely bad. That's like a hint to it. There was not one harlot in the whole world he didn't visit. We once heard about a harlot on the other end of the sea. And he took a pocket full of money to pay her. Natal Kistinar and Shiva Naras. He took his money, crossed over 7 seas. Bishas Hergel Davar, when it came time to be with her, he ficha, she blew in his ear. Amra Keshem she ficha zo eno chazer some koma. She says, just like my breath will never return. Kachol ben Durdai and Mekaman so so too you won't be able to be accepted with repentance. Halch v'yashav ben shnei arim gvos. He sat between two mountains. Amar har mugvos bakshol rachamim. He said, mountains and hills request me mercy. Amar lo ad shanu mevakshel achan nevakish al tzmeinu. We also need to request mercy. That sometimes the mountains and the hills will be moved through an earthquake and they'll fall. Amar Shemaim V'aretz Bakshul Arachim. He said, heaven and earth should request mercy. Amar Ad Shanu Mevakshim Alecha Nevakesh Atzmeinu. Let's request mercy on ourselves, as it says, Ki Shemaim Ke'ashan Nimwachu V'aretz Kebeged Techleh. Amar Chamo Avana Bakshul Arachim. Let the sun and the moon request mercy. Amar Ad Shanu Mevakshim Alecha Nevakesh Atzmeinu. Let's request it for ourselves. It says, V'chafra Avano Bo Shachama. The moon was humiliated and the sun was humiliated. Amar What the stars and the constellations request mercy. We have to search for ourselves. It says, Amar, he says, the whole thing depends upon me. He stuck his head between his knees. He cried out until his soul departed. A heavenly voice came out and said, Rabbi Elazar ben Dardai has a share in the world to come. So it says, here he died with his sin. And not from heresy, and nevertheless he died. No, he was so addicted, it was like the heresy. Rabbi cried, said there are some people who require the world to come in a long period of time, some required in one moment. Not only for the Baalei Tshuva that they accept them, they also call them Rabbi. Why was Rabbi crying? So Chaim Shmuel said because he realized that you have to appreciate the power of that instant, the moment, and that's what Rabbi Elazar Dardai appreciate the power of one instant. And that one instant he was able to acquire it, and how many times we just waste instants or moments. Rabbi Yochanan were walking along the path. They came to two paths. One of them opened into the entrance to idolatry. One of them went to the path to harlotry. Let's go down the path to idolatry. Because it's less dangerous for us. No, let's go down the path of the harlots and we'll conquer our inclination and we'll receive more reward. Let's go down the path that we can conquer our inclination and receive more reward. When they saw there, they saw the harlots. Iskanu mikama, the harlots ran away from them. Amarle Manocha, how'd you know that they would run away? Amarle Mizima Tishmarecha Tavuna Tintrechana. So what does that mean? Amarle Rabbanu Rabba my Mizima. What does it mean, Mizima? Ilema Torah, that they're afraid of Torah, Dachsiv, Ba Zima, Metarim Eitzas Chitim, because it says Zima, we translate that as Atzat Chata'in, meaning to say the wisdom, the counsel of the wicked. Udachsev Hifli Eitza Higdiel Tushia. Zima Mibala. If that's the case, it would say Zima. Why Mizima? So Hachikamer Midvar Zima Tishmar Lecha Torah. From everything that is bad and causes you to sin, the Torah will guard you. Tin Tzrechena. And that's why it says you don't need to be concerned because it will be guarding you. Now we're going to come to the famous sugya, which is really mostly in Sunday's daf of the famous story of Reb Chanina ben Teradion's death, which we tell on Yom Kippur and on Tisha B'Av. So this is the beginning of it. When Reb Elazar and Pater and Chanina ben Teradyon were caught, Amar Reb Elazar ben Parto Reb Chanina ben Teradyon, Ashrecha shenetfasta al davar echad, oili shenetfasta al chamish dvarim. You're fortunate that you were caught for one thing, i.e. for studying Torah, but I was caught for 5 things. And we'll see what they are. You'll be saved. Woe to me, woe to me that I was caught on one thing and I won't be saved. You engage in Torah and kindness. I only did Torah. Whoever just engaged in Torah study, don't make aloha. It's like somebody who has no God, as it says, the Yemen Rabbim with Israel will LKMS. Will my will LKMS would mean without a God of truth. Whoever just engaged in Torah study is like somebody who has no God. Wasn't engaged in kindness. A person can't give his money to a charity collection. Unless there's a Torah scholar like Reb Chanina ben Teradyon in charge of the charity. They trusted him, but so the says, but he didn't actually do it. But didn't we say that Rabbi Chanina ben Trajan said that one time I had the money of Purim mixed up with the money of tzedakah, and what I did was I gave my own money to those poor people for Purim. And Mara said, yeah, he did, but he didn't do his potential. So they brought Rabbi Lezer Pata. My time of Tanis, my time of Ganapt. Why did you study Torah and why did you steal? He said, if I'm a robber, then that's fine. Then I hold a sword. If that's the case, I'm not a scholar. And if I'm a scholar studying Torah, then I'm not a robber. So neither one is true. I wasn't studying Torah and I'm not a robber. My time of Karl Rebbe. Then why do they call you Rebbe? Rabbanan Shal Tarsiamani. I'm the rabbi of weavers. I'm not a rabbi. They call me like the rabbi of the weavers. I'm a weaver. So he wasn't a weaver. So they tested him. Asiu Trey Kibar. They brought him 2 piles of wheat. Amrulay, hi the Shativ, hi the Arba. Which one is which? In the Arab, how do you do it? A miracle happened. Asya Ziburu say they brought him a bee who sival the shatya. Asya Zibura v'yatzival the Arba. So they brought a female bee and she went on the top, and she went, and then they brought the male one, and so then he understood which one was which. So he says this one is the female one is with the sheti and the male is with the arev. My time avidan, and so therefore, how come you don't come to the idolatry to be avidan? He says, I'm an old guy. I was worried you're going to crush me. Many older people come. So he said, no, what happened was that day a miracle happened and an old guy was killed because he showed up to that place. Why did you free your slave? You're not allowed to free their slaves. And so therefore it's an indication that you're Jewish. Rashi says because freeing their slaves is an indication of Judaism. See, the Jews are at the forefront of the emancipation movement. Even though Jews are not supposed to free their slaves. So, but they did free them so they could keep mitzvahs. It never happened. One of them got up to testify against him. So Elijah came and made himself look like one of the kings. Like one of the officers. Just like a miracle happened to Rebbe Eliezer until now, so too it'll be a miracle saved. And this person will come and tell your wickedness, and still nevertheless he didn't accept it, and he got up to give testimony. They had a letter which they were going to send from the senators to the Caesar. They sent it through that man. Eliyahu came and threw him 400 parsings away, so he couldn't go and testify. He never came back. Anyway, tomorrow, so this is the daf yomi for Shabbos. I did very quickly because on Shabbos we're going to go over very slowly. It's a very powerful daf with a lot of deep stories. And then on Sunday is the daf yomi of Rav Chananya ben Tradion. That, Baruch Hashem, we'll do at 5:30 Sunday morning. Shkoyach.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.